On this week's Vaticano, we follow the Pope across what he calls the continent of hope, Africa. First, he stops into Kenya, then Uganda, and finally the Central African Republic on a 6-day trip that brought him and his message to the African continent for the first time in his life. Also, Germany's bishops visit Rome to pray at the tombs of the apostles and to speak over major challenges and hopes in their homeland with the Pope and Vatican officials. Also, a new library is established in the Vatican dedicated to Benedict XVI, and we take a look at an ancient English tradition in Rome. Now, on Vaticano. On November the 25th, Pope Francis embarked on his 5th international trip and the 11th of his still young pontificate. As he boarded the plane in Rome, he was heading into a 6-day journey to 3 nations that would bring him to millions on the African continent. First stop, Kenya in East Africa. This, the scene that welcomed Pope Francis as he touched down. An ever-present and contagious joy that wouldn't leave him over the 2 days he remained. He came to confirm Catholics in their faith, but he called all men and women of goodwill to work for reconciliation, peace, and forgiveness in a land often divided by corruption, violence, fear, and poverty.
The Gospel tells us that from those to whom much has been given, much will be demanded. In that spirit, I encourage you to walk with integrity and transparency for the common good and to foster a spirit of solidarity at every level of society. I ask you, in particular, to show genuine concern for the needs of the poor, the aspirations of the young, and a just distribution of the natural and human resources with which the Creator has blessed your country.
The morning after his arrival, he met with interreligious leaders, saying that dialogue between them is not something extra or optional, but essential, something which our world, wounded by conflict and division, increasingly needs. It was a rainy day, but that didn't dampen the mood at the Mass that followed. This is the dry season in Kenya, and the precipitation in this season is seen as a great blessing. Well, plenty of blessings poured down with the Pope's presence, and the joy was apparent. More than 250,000 people turned out, and Pope Francis invited them to use the teachings of the gospel to transform the culture.
Siate forti nella fede.
Stand strong in faith. Do not be afraid, for you belong to the Lord.
Al Signore. Mungu awabariki. Mungu abariki Kenya.
The Pope also met with 10,000 priests and religious that afternoon, engaging them off the cuff. And he made a powerful speech at the UN, urging care of God's creation. He said, "It's now or never."
We are confronted with a choice which cannot be ignored, either to improve or to destroy the environment. Every step we take, whether large or small, individual or collective, in caring for creation, opens a sure path for that generous and worthy creativity which brings out the best in human beings.
In his last morning in Kenya, on November the 27th, his schedule was again jam-packed, making the most of his short time. Pope Francis first went to a Nairobi slum called Kanjemi. He said that the world has a lot to learn from those who live there, from the gospel values, the wisdom found in poor neighborhoods.
I want, in the first place, to uphold these values which you practice. Values which are not quoted in the stock exchange, are not subject to speculation, and have no market price. I congratulate you, I accompany you, and I want you to know that the Lord never forgets you.
Then, to recap a whirlwind 2-day visit, a meeting with young people in the soccer stadium that had them dancing and singing Hakuna Matata. And then it was off again for Uganda. The third day out of Rome and the second African nation, Ugandans celebrating the arrival of the successor of Peter in their midst. His visit was to mark the 50th anniversary of the canonization of 22 Catholic martyrs, killed between 1885 and 1887, along with 23 Anglicans, by order of the area's king for refusing to deny their faith. In his first address to the president and state leaders, Pope Francis remembered the martyrs as national heroes.
They remind us of the importance that faith, moral rectitude, and commitment to the common good have played and continue to play in the cultural, economic, and political life of this country. They also remind us that despite our different beliefs and convictions, all of us are called to seek the truth, to work for justice and reconciliation, and to respect, protect, and help one another as members of our one human family.
The Pope also praised Ugandans today for their strong families and their outstanding concern for refugees. From there, despite the fall of night, he went straight to the site of the first martyrs' deaths, Munyonyo, to visit with catechists, teachers of the faith, just like some of those martyred. The Pope called those present to be coherent educators in Christianity, in the footsteps of their forebears.
You must be teachers, but this is not enough. You also have to be witnesses. Your example should speak to everyone of the beauty of prayer, the power of mercy and forgiveness, the joy of sharing in the Eucharist with all our brothers and sisters.
The next morning, a solemn visit, first to the shrine dedicated to the Anglican martyrs, then to that of the Catholics, in a place called Namugongo. There, the Pope spoke of the beauty of passing on the faith fearlessly.
If we, like the martyrs, fan daily the flame of the gift of the Holy Spirit who dwells in our heart, then we will surely become missionary disciples which Christ calls us to be. To our families and friends certainly, but also to those whom we do not know, especially those who might be unfriendly, even hostile to us.
Then to a real party with young people, where there were also some very serious testimonies. A young woman, Winnie, born with HIV, now 24. She didn't feel right to be loved, but overcame it with her faith. A young man, Emmanuel, kidnapped along with classmates by a terrorist cell, trying to make sense of their deaths and his life. Pope Francis told all of the young people that with God's help, even death takes on new meaning.
Through that death there is life, life for all. If I transform what is negative into positive, I am triumphant. But that can only be done with the grace of Jesus.
Then a stop into a charity operation for the sick, elderly, and disabled, where he implored the world not to forget the poor. And he rounded out a chock-full day with a final event where he invited the nation's priests and consecrated religious to continue the legacy of faith handed on to them.
Mártir significa testigo.
Martyr means witness. The Church in Uganda, to be faithful to that memory, has to continue being a witness. It mustn't live on our savings. The past glories were the beginning, but you need to have future glories. And that is the responsibility that the Church gives you. Be witnesses as the martyrs who gave their life for the gospel.
And with the dawn of a new day, it was time for a new country, this time a country at war. After the break, we'll take you along on the final leg of the Pope's Africa trip, where he opens the first holy door in the world for the Year of Mercy. Thanks for watching. This is Vaticano. It was the first ever papal trip to a war zone when on November the 29th, Pope Francis stepped into Central African Republic, or CAR as it's known. Security was a big concern going into the trip, but on the ground, the Pope was at peace. He was on a mission. He said he was there as a pilgrim of peace and an apostle of hope. He went first to a camp for people displaced by the violence. Several thousand now call this home. It's run by the parish of Saint-Sauveur in CAR's capital of Bangui. These people have been living amid armed conflict in parts of the nation since 2012. Several bands of mainly Muslim rebel groups started it when they formed an alliance, taking the name Seleka. Since then, the group has been seizing power, and fear and uncertainty have gripped the nation. The country's current leadership has struggled to maintain peace, leading ordinary citizens like these to take up arms or flee. Pope Francis wanted to speak to them in person.
I read what the children have written on their posters. Peace, forgiveness, unity, and so many things. Love. We must work and pray to do everything for peace. But peace without love, without friendship, without tolerance, without forgiveness is not possible. Every one of us must do something. I wish peace for you and all Central Africans, a great peace among you. May you live in peace, whatever your ethnicity, culture, religion, social status may be. Everyone in peace, everyone, that we all may be brothers. I would like you to say together, we are all brothers. One more time. And for this, because we're all brothers, we want peace.
And he reached out to the local religious communities himself, visiting both the evangelical Christians at their theological seminary and Muslims at their mosque. He said that members of the different religions are brothers and sisters, and that they must say no to hatred, vengeance, and violence together. 6,000 people have died here in the last 3 years. Christians were targeted during the original Muslim offensive. Christians have since launched revenge attacks on Muslims. The Pope told Catholics that they need to go beyond the violence, to be witnesses of forgiveness. And in a beautiful gesture to show his closeness to the people of CAR, Pope Francis anticipated the Year of Mercy right here, opening the Holy Door at the Catholic Cathedral a week before it was to be opened in Rome.
Bangui diviene la capitale spirituale del mondo.
Today, Bangui becomes the spiritual capital of the world. The Holy Year of Mercy is being anticipated in this land, a land that has suffered war and hate, incomprehension, lack of peace for years. But in the suffering land, there are also many countries that are passing through the cross of war. Bangui becomes the spiritual capital of prayer for the mercy of the Father. All of us ask peace, mercy, reconciliation, forgiveness, and love. For Bangui, for all of the Central African Republic, for the entire world, for the nations that suffer war, we ask peace. And let's all ask for love and peace. Everyone together. Doye Siriri.
Doye Siriri.
Ekwetenelegeako. Doye Siriri. Ekwetenelegeako. Doye Siriri. Ekiritene.
A door of mercy, an appeal for peace. And that was the image and the message he left behind. "67 bishops from the 27 dioceses of Germany came to Rome for their ad limina visit. For 1 week, they visited the different Vatican departments and recharged their spiritual batteries with a pilgrimage to the tombs of the apostles.
It is important to emphasize here at the tombs of the apostles that we, the Church in Germany, are the Church together with the Pope and with the Universal Church. That will be seen during the meetings with the Pope, but has already been experienced during the different conversations in the Curia.
The last time the German bishops were in Rome was already 9 years ago, uncommon since usually the ad limina takes place every 5 years. The visit wasn't just routine. Current hot topics were discussed, like the immigration challenge in Germany, with about 10,000 immigrants being registered every day.
I am a bishop of integration in many ways, in the Ruhr Valley as well as within the jobs that have something to do with the German army. The greatest challenge is that, with a Christian spirit, a spirit of the gospel, that we have to show the fearmongers that every human who comes to us, every refugee, is a person and has his or her dignity. We have to help most of them to return safely to their homes, to re-establish a civil society after the wars and the civil wars and conflicts, and to show that only with a peaceful mean we can build a society that has a future.
For some of them, it was the first time.
Well, I have to say that I'm still a greenhorn. I was nominated only 3 years ago as an auxiliary bishop, so I'm pretty excited. I will be part of Cologne's church province, so we will be 20 or 25 bishops. I don't think I will have the chance to talk to him personally, but I am excited about what the Holy Father will tell us. I'm hoping that he will encourage us and that he would encourage us to proclaim the wonderful teaching that Christ has bestowed upon us with openness and joy. One question is how the situation will continue after the Synod for the family. Will there be a document of the Holy Father? Will there be further content? I can imagine that those would be topics, but I'm excited about what will come out of it.
Despite its material wealth, the church in Germany is losing about 200,000 people a year, and of those that remain, only about 10% go to church. So what impulses are necessary to tackle this situation?
We have to help the people to become authentic witnesses of Jesus Christ with body and soul and with joy. That will move us further.
After the break, we'll take you to Rome's Venerable English College, where they're remembering martyred seminarians this week, and get a peek into the new Benedict XVI library in the Vatican. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. Centuries after 44 of its students were martyred, Rome's British seminary is still celebrating their sacrifice.
During the first 100 years of the college's existence, 44 of the men we trained for the mission back in England and Wales were arrested and executed for the faith. And they've been beatified and in some cases canonized, and we have a great tradition of venerating our college martyrs. We have a feast when we venerate all the college martyrs together, and it's the 1st of December. The feast was instituted in the 1930s at the time of the 4th centenary of the first English Catholic martyrs. And so that was a great reawakening, if you like, of the devotion to the martyrs. And it's been very important for the college ever since because it's a reminder of our identity, of our mission. And we have the great tradition of our forebears who intercede for us, support us with their prayers, and give us a wonderful example of dedication and faith and courage.
It's due to this legacy of holiness that the Brits' House of Study has been called the Venerable English College for the last 200 years. Of those killed and 130 more imprisoned, a full 41 have been canonized or beatified. Though the last of the martyrs' lives were taken in the year 1679, the college leadership and student body is still surrounded by reminders of them, and not only on their feast day. The remains of some of the martyrs are kept in the seminary's ornate chapel. Their names adorn the walls. In different ways, the art also calls to mind their memory.
This painting you see in the background in the church here is a spectacular painting. It was commissioned by the seminary on its foundation, and it was painted in 1580 by an artist called Durante Alberti. And then when ever news returned to Rome that one of their brothers, one of their brother priests, had been put to death in England, the college community would come and gather in front of the painting, commemorating English martyrdom, this picture, and they would sing a hymn of praise to God, Te Deum Laudamus. And there are 32 depictions of martyrdom around the walls, and those of the Reformation times, martyrdoms of Thomas More and John Fisher, of our martyrs, Ralph Sherwin, St. Luke Kirby, and some other early martyrs of the Reformation, St. Edmund Campion. They're shown very graphically, and you need to perhaps give a health warning before people go in and see them, but they're a vivid reminder to us of what people gave their lives for and what a great sacrifice they made in the name of their faith, and that we walk in that tradition. They lived in this house, in this building, and we're literally walking in their footsteps.
For current seminarians like Deacon David Howell, the witness and sacrifice of the martyrs continues to inspire.
It's a constant challenge when you enter the church and think that in this church 44 men received that grace of martyrdom through their prayer and through the Mass they celebrated or attended. And it makes me ask myself, what graces am I receiving? What graces am I asking for? Am I asking for that grace to give up my life entirely? Perhaps I won't have the same challenges they had, but still I have to have that same self-gift, and that's the challenge that comes to my mind when I enter the church here. For our martyrs, they were fighting to keep England Catholic, but now we're fighting to keep England Christian. We're fighting to keep a basic sense of morality, and so the challenge we have spiritually is even greater. But we can rely on their intercession, because I know they pray especially for English Catholics. We are Catholic because of them, and I know they intercede for us with great power.
In the English headquarters in Rome, despite the centuries that have gone by, the sense of history and gratitude to the martyrs who preceded them will not soon be forgotten.
Inside the Vatican, housed within the existing library of the Roman Institute of the Gesellschaft and the building known as the Campo Santo Teutonico, a new library has been established in honor of Pope Benedict XVI.
We met him, Joseph Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, so often here, and I stay here at the college since 1996. And so the idea came just spontaneously.
Although the idea was spontaneous, the new library within a library is already quite substantial in size, with hundreds of books to read in over 30 languages.
Some of them are in German, most of them I would say in Italian now. Our language which we have to complete is certainly English. And then, of course, French, Spanish, and so, because the course of the Augustinianum, the Institute of Patristic Studies, which will start courses of introduction in the theology of Ratzinger, will be in English and in Italian. And for those who join these courses, we want to complete our languages. Most of the books are donations of Benedict XVI, of the Vatican Print House and of the Vatican Foundation, Joseph Ratzinger, but also private persons who gave us their publications and books, and so most of the books are simply donations. Of course we have to buy books as well, and we stand right at the beginning of the whole.
Benedict XVI himself donated 20 boxes of books to give it a start. But this is only the beginning.
We are a scientific library, and our interest is to invite students, scholars who are in Rome mostly, to come here and see if they can use this library, which is much bigger than Ratzinger. So most of the books here we don't see. because we are already a big library of church history, of history of the papacy, history of councils, and so on.
So the future is bright for this newborn library, and Benedict has already given his sign of approval.
He wanted this library in this house because it's his college in a certain sense. He made it a pontifical college and gave the title, and he stood here. He's member of the Archiconfraternita, which is the owner of this compound, and he is since decades. He's a member of the Goethe Society, and the Goethe Society has this institute here, the Roman Institute, which is scientifically responsible for the library.
They expect traffic to increase substantially with the creation of the new master's degree in the study and spirituality of Joseph Ratzinger at the nearby Augustinianum University. The hope is that anyone interested will simply get a library card and come by.